Hi, welcome to Ben and Barry on Football. My name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings.
I'm your favorite co-host, Ben Dickerson, fantasy geek, lover of everything football, and I got a flu shot today.
Hmm. You're not one of those anti-vaxxers, eh? You don't.
Actually, I am.
You're an
but
anti-vaxxer?
I'm an anti-vaxxer.
Oh my.
I have never gotten a flu shot before in my life, and I had a doctor's appointment today, and I had a really good checkup and all. And he says, "So now I'm going to give you a flu shot." And I was like, "Do I have to?" And he starts giving me all these reasons. I was like, "Dude, just do it. Just. What are you gonna do, man?"
Okay, all right. Cool. I ain't mad at you. Well, Ben, week 2 is in the books. Sterling net point power rankings. We were kind of off during the offseason. We didn't have any net points to rank. But last week, we were able to get week 1 in.
And now we do.
We've got 2 weeks, so we're halfway through the second preseason. What I mean by the second preseason, we always talked about the first 4 games of the regular season. Is we call it the second preseason because a good portion of the starters never played in the preseason. So now they're playing together as a unit in many cases for the first time in totality. And so you see some of the lack of timing, some of the misfires. You see some of the teams not operating at full efficiency. And that's usually works its way out by the end of the 4th game. So that first quarter of the season, we call it, just like the first 4 preseason, the first 4 games of the season, the second preseason. So we're going to go through the Sterling net point power rankings and share the results of that. Before we do, any questions, Mr. Dickerson, or any statements that you want to bring to the fore?
No, just the fact that now that we've got a couple games under our belts in our so-called second preseason, what we're finding out is the better teams, the teams that are most prepared, whether they had starters they didn't play at all, played a few quarters, kept their quarterbacks out, whatever, they're all kind of vaulting to the lead as far as the power rankings are concerned. Those things can change, but for the most part, the teams that were best prepared coming out of the real preseason are the ones that are ahead in the power rankings.
And it really looks, you can kind of see it, bro. All right, so let's start with our top 5. And in this particular case, we have a top 6 because there's a tie for the 5th place there. So in terms of net points, and again, Sterling net point power rankings can be found at Sterling NPPR on Facebook. And the net points are simply the difference between the points for and the points against.
Correct.
The points scored versus the points given up. And the question is, who's the big dog? That's always the question. And so we define that big dog based on net points. So starting with number 6 and number 5 for a tie, we have the Cowboys and the Titans at 28. Now the Cowboys are an interesting story because right now their offensive coordinator is getting a lot of love.
Kellen Moore
getting a lot of love. Dak is increasing his value. It looks like with every game, they're going to wait until he's going to be demanding like $50 million. It's well beyond the 30 if he keeps at the pace that he's going right now.
Hurry up, Jerry.
You know what I'm saying? The Tennessee Titans came out strong in game 1.
Yes,
put the smack down on the Browns, and consequently they established themselves pretty strongly in terms of net points. However, their second game, I think they scored like 12 points. So they really got off against the Browns, but not so much in the next game that they had there.
But their defense did hold up.
Defense held up, so that's how they maintained their self. Number 4, Kansas City Chiefs, who just look ridiculous. I heard someone, I think it was Kyle on Good Morning Football. He said, is there another league beyond the NFL because Mahomes has mastered this one? He's mastered this one. Is there another league that, for him to play in? I don't know what's beyond the NFL. There is nothing.
I mean, once again, he's the early leader for MVP.
Well,
it's really early, but hey,
I don't know about that because number 2 is the Ravens. This is hilarious because I'm sorry, I skipped number 3.
You skipped
my Niners, baby. Hilarious. I'm loving my Niners.
How they doing?
Absolutely.
How they doing it? Smoke and mirrors?
No. Guess what?
Tell me about it.
Guess what? I have Game Pass, so I went back before the show here during the day and tried to watch as much of the game as I could. Okay. Number 1, they won by a big score. Okay. They put up like 41 points on these guys.
Right.
And the first thing you notice was the run game. Yes. And I'm not talking about one running back. I'm talking like three different running backs. Yes. They had like 300 some yards rushing or something like that. It's ridiculous. And a lot of those rushing yards came late in the game when they had a big lead. And so the other team knows that, okay, they're going to try to run the ball. They want to kill the clock. They want to move the ball, get first downs, et cetera, et cetera. And they were still successful.
Couldn't do nothing with them.
That's when, it's like when the other team knows you have to run, now they had a few times when they tricked them, you know what I mean? They play action them and stuff like that. But for the most part, man, I'm talking about Mostert. I'm talking about my man Breida. He's my number 1 running back on Madden. And then they had, St. James, I believe it was.
I'm sorry. I think his last name is Wilson.
Right.
Say Kyle Wilson.
No, it's not that. It's not that. But Wilson. But long story short, I was surprised at seeing him run with the power that he ran with. I mean, they had him down on the goal line. He's pushing into the goal line. I'm like, excuse me, but you know what I thought? And this is the second thing, real quick. This looks like the Kyle Shanahan offense that he was running in Atlanta.
There you go.
This is what Atlanta is missing right now. What Kyle was doing when he was mixing it at the turntables, doing real good. Your boy Deebo Samuels, okay, he's fitting in quite nicely. He's I told you even on Madden, putting him in, even though his ratings was a little low. I kind of like the way he was programmed in on there. I like what they have on them. So. Yeah, I was very happy with the fact that we're running the ball the way we're running the ball. Because if you're talking about coming up against some of the more prolific scoring teams, if you can run the ball like that, you can keep their offense on the sideline. It's probably your best defense.
Absolutely.
So, number 2, Lamar Jackson. What you got to say about Lamar, man?
I already said enough about him a week or 2 ago. He's special. Guy's special.
Are you at all surprised at the passing that he's doing right now?
I was when I saw him in the preseason. And it was like night and day from the previous season.
From last year.
And I'm thinking, and this is the vanilla offense. Okay? And then the first real game, week 1, he comes out, fits it in tight windows, throws it long, throws the intermediate. Looks great. I'm thinking, boy, oh boy, it's going to be some trouble. He's going to be trouble. And then he runs when he feels like it, and you can't touch him.
It's going to be interesting watching him. So, amidst all of this magical quarterback work between the Chiefs and the Ravens, we got old Tom Brady putting the clamps down. Now, they had to go down. Who did they play? Miami?
Yeah.
Okay. Miami is. I've officially labeled them the whipping boy of the season.
Yeah. I guess you kind of have to.
Yeah.
All around.
Whoever gets to play them should bump up their net points quite nicely. The thing is, and the reason that I feel comfortable in saying that is because I saw my Niners in that same situation a couple years back. You know, especially after the Chip debacle. You know,
Yeah.
whoever played my Niners in the next week or so, they were in the top 5 in net points.
Yeah, but even back then, Breed and those guys, you had some players on that team that you could see could be worked with. Right now, they're in this so-called process or tanking mode or whatever you want to call it, and guys are trying to get out of there, which they will probably accommodate most of them as they did with Minkah Fitzpatrick because they're not trying to win.
That kind of hurts me. That kind of hurts me because, you know, you got a first-year coach, African-American coach.
Hurts him more than it hurts you.
I just don't, you know, I hope they didn't bring him in to be the fall guy. And then next year, you know, the year or two afterwards, when they finally get some talent, they say to him, okay, well, you're 32 guy. We got to fire you and get a new coach.
We just saw this happen with the Cardinals last year. That guy had 1 year for a team that obviously needed another good draft, needed a quarterback. They fired him, had a draft, brought in a quarterback. You know what I mean? Now, whether or not this guy will get a chance, I don't know. I don't think it's like a setup. Gase had to go. He wore out his welcome there. So, I mean, they gave the brother a chance, gave him an opportunity.
Yeah, well, you know, it's one thing you have an opportunity. It's another thing when you're given a, you know.
Well, I don't think they said, dude, we're about to hire you. We like you. And we want you to be our head coach going forward. But this season coming up, you're going to have to take your lumps. Would you turn down a head coaching job?
No.
Okay.
Probably not.
Well, there you go.
Probably not. I mean, you know, the money is the money.
I'm sure you can see the handwriting on the wall.
But I'm just saying, you know, at least if he understood that, then I feel a little bit better.
He did.
I hope he did. All right, let's talk about scoring. Points for. Number 5, Cowboys came in at 66. As we said, the Cowboys seem to be humming on offense now. The Chiefs at 68. So I'm a little surprised they're even as close to the Cowboys. You need to think Chiefs. I keep thinking that they're just blowing people out the water, but they're not blowing people out the water as much as the 49ers, who put up 72 points so far, or the Patriots, who put up 76. And although the Patriots are in first place in net points, and we'll talk about why in a moment, number 1 in scoring, Baltimore Ravens.
Now, you realize they played Arizona and Miami the first 2 games.
I do.
Okay. So
I do.
Okay. But they look good doing it. So I'm not going to take anything away from them. Also, Niners had a game against Cincinnati, which is probably a worse run defense than Miami even, as far as run defenses is concerned.
Well, maybe so.
But again,
we'll
not
see.
taking nothing away from you because you look good. I like what you're doing. Great balance. Shanahan football.
Again, you know, I'm like, man, getting a little exciting here. Getting a little exciting, you know. Let's see here. So the points, that was points 4. All right. Defense wins championships. Do you believe that, Ben?
Yeah, I'll stick with that old saying. Yes.
We'll stick with that.
Still.
Well, then if that's true.
Actually, defense in a run game wins championships.
If that's true. Number 5, you have the Titans, who've given up 30 points and points against. The Chiefs have given up 27. Well, first of all, let's give the Chiefs a hand for having the defense ranked in the top 5 after last year.
It's early, bro.
Yeah, well, they're there, so you give them credit when credit's due.
Okay.
You know? Let's give the Niners, because that's a defense that hadn't looked real great. They didn't,
yeah, but they look way better.
My son told me he literally picked the Niners defense in his fantasy.
Yeah, they should hold up for a few more weeks.
All right, we shall see. Because you know we will be doing some inter-division play.
Yeah.
Intra-division play. So
They are much improved on defense. I don't know that the Chiefs are, but the 49ers are much improved on defense.
Saw a few nice plays from Quan Alexander. Where he literally, one play, they mistook him for a D-back because he got on, he stuck
Who's he covering tight end?
He's covering tight end.
Good.
And
that's great.
Did he pick it off? I think he picked it off.
It's great.
But he got his hands on that ball, and they were like, well, the D-back wait a minute, that's a linebacker. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm talking about.
That's what you're talking about. That's what you want to see.
Perennial good defense, the Ravens. Now, they don't have, what's his name, that went to the Cardinals, Suggs.
Mm-hmm.
But
T-Sizzle.
But they're number 2 in defense, only giving up 19 points.
Right.
All right. And again, the Patriots, number 1 defense, only giving up 3 points in 2 games. Yes, they played Miami. But what we find with the net point rankings and with the actual scoring information is that you don't play down to teams. You beat them the way you're supposed to beat them. If you're that much better than them, the score will reflect that you're that much better than them.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move quickly over to the turnover differential. All right, we got 6 here because, again, we include the turnover differential in what we call the bias plus when we look at the matchups. And we'll do that in the next show, the matchup show, which will be coming up shortly. So get back to Ben and Barry on football, on YouTube, on Facebook, and all of our other social media for the matchup show. That's going to be really crazy because some great matchups coming up. But Ravens, Jets, Chiefs, and Packers all with +3 in turnover differential. So that's pretty good. That's one, in 2 games, that's 3, whatever that turns out to be on an average, a little under 2. Patriots averaging 2 turnovers per game. Got to give that to them. Titans living off of that game against the Browns again. So we'll see how long that holds up. But they're in number 1 place with +5 in turnover differential. Now, we don't show that, but I do like to talk about the teams at the bottom because sometimes you see some surprising teams that are struggling still. And the thing about
in particular categories.
I'm going to talk mainly in net points, but we'll go across. We only have 4 categories, so
I'm just saying when you talk about surprisingly.
Yeah, for certain categories especially.
Yeah.
So net points. The one thing about net points and turnover differential, they're the only 2 statistic categorically that we follow that have a negative component. Right. So at any particular point, half the teams in the NFL will have a negative net points and negative turnover differential. Not necessarily always half specifically, but it kind of works out toward that. A little less, I think, on the turnover differential because it's not a zero-sum game so much, win-loss type thing. It's just comparative to what they accomplished. Let's go down. We talked about the Dolphins. If you look at 32nd place, that's last place in the NFL. They're pretty much there. And net points with -92, only having scored 10 points so far in 2 games, giving up 102 points. Sometimes you just have to look at the numbers and just realize where they stand. And also last in turnover differential with -6.
They're last in every category.
Every category, and in some cases, especially here on defense, by a large amount. If you look at number 32 and 30 in net points, the Giants and the Steelers are there. They're only -32. So compared to the Dolphins who are -92, it kind of shows, right there that, Dolphins have something acute going on down there.
Absolutely.
Your Bengals at 29 with the -25. Your Jets -21. Your Saints -16 coming in 27th place. Redskins -15 and the Jaguars -15 also. So your Falcons, Browns, Raiders, Broncos, Panthers, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Bears, Colts, and Texans are all running negative net points at that point. And then at that point, the Eagles pick up with a positive 1 net point in 14th place.
They're in the middle of the pack.
They're right in the middle of the pack. So your Chargers, Seahawks, and Lions all with +3, Vikings +11, Packers +12, Bills +15, Rams +21, and we talked about everybody else. So that just gives you a quick rundown in terms of net points across the board. In terms of your surprises toward the bottom of the scoring, the Steelers obviously with 29 points, the Packers with 29 points, they ranked 29th, the Packers ranking 26th with 31 points. So those are two of my surprises to see toward the bottom of the scoring situation. Your Giants and the Steelers down at 31 and 30 with 63 points in the points against, having given up that number of points. I think I'm a little surprised to see the Saints at 27th. They've given up 55 points so far.
Yeah.
So that's one of the surprises. The only surprise in terms of turnover differential, well, the Jaguars with Nick Foles were supposed to be a team that was going to solve their turnover problems from the previous quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, obviously, he went out right away. So at least they have that excuse that they're working with their second-string quarterback.
Yeah, but I don't want to accept that excuse because they're 25th in points against. And that vaunted defense that somehow had a gigantic hiccup last year has another gigantic hiccup this year. So
interestingly,
they got problems.
That you focus in on the Jaguars because obviously they have the controversy now where cornerback, what's his name, Jalen Ramsey, it's gotten out that he wants out. And the funny thing is, as I'm listening to media talk about one of the reasons that he wants out is that they want to play a zone. And he wants to play man. Really?
Really?
You want out because of that?
Yep.
You agree with him? I mean,
he feels like he's not being. He feels like he's not being used to the best of his ability. He feels like if you put me on the best receiver on every team that we play, I can take him away, and then maybe he can zone up or double team somebody else. Other teams have done it. Just because he's playing man doesn't mean they're playing man across the board.
That could be true.
So he does not believe in their defensive philosophy, generally speaking.
Well, if you don't believe in the philosophy, then yeah, you probably should go.
Yeah, probably should.
But that's what I heard. All right. So we covered the top 5 in net points, the top 5 in points for, points against, and turnover differential. That pretty much wraps it up for this portion of Ben and Barry on football, featuring the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. So we're going to sign off at this particular point.
I have something.
He has something.
Now that we're going into week 3, and you hear me talk about fantasy all the time, and I don't like to say a whole lot about it, but let's compare really fast. The one team aspect of fantasy football is defense. Okay, so let's look at the top 5 in net points.
In net points.
And then the top 5 in fantasy defense.
Why are you comparing net points to defense as opposed to points against fantasy? Because
defense is the only team statistic. It's the only aspect of fantasy that belongs to a team. Okay. And net points is half offense and half defense. Okay. And I just want to look at the comparisons. Your top 5 in net points, I think we did top 6. Patriots, Ravens, 49ers, Chiefs, Titans, Cowboys. In fantasy, Patriots, 49ers, Titans, Packers, and Vikings.
Packers and Vikings.
So now, what's the difference? With those two being in there, it's probably turnovers that have boosted them up because in fantasy, points against is a big stat, but they also use turnovers.
Well, the Vikings were 10th with their turnover differential of 1. Packers are pretty high. They're ranked third with turnover differential of 3.
Right. So it could be points against. It could be counting points in fantasy, such as a takeaway or a sack. Those things all add up. Okay. But I just thought it was interesting that for the most part,
They kind of
line
up. At
up.
least 3 out of 5, eh?
Yes. Yes.
5.
And if we keep going down the list, you'll see a lot more
A
similarities.
lot more similarities.
So don't poo-poo the net point power rankings. It's real.
And never say poo-poo in the recording. Okay. All right, Benny. That's it for the Sterling Net Point Power Ranking portion of Ben and Barry on football. Signing off.